All right, guys, welcome back to the VIP Financial Ed channel. Matthew Pillmore here, sitting with Richard Fertig. If you haven't checked out the intro video with Richard, make sure you watch that just so you know a little bit about him, why he's being featured here on the channel. Another YouTuber has a great channel himself, Short-Term Rental University. Guys, if you guys have not yet considered getting involved in the short-term rental industry, if you have any interest in real estate whatsoever, it's my humble opinion you're making a big mistake, and I think you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And that's exactly what today's episode is going to be about. We're going to be talking about dynamic pricing with the short-term rental market and how that compares to the long-term buy and hold market. And we're also going to be talking briefly about where do you even start, right? If you don't have a short-term rental yet, we're actually sitting in my very first short-term rental property. It's been chaotic. There's been a lot of excitement, a lot of adrenaline, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of hurdles we've had to overcome already. Even just getting Richard here to this table has been quite an adventure. So we have a lot to cover on this episode, and we're gonna try and cover it in under 10 minutes. So let's start with the dynamic pricing advantages of the short-term rental market compared to long-term.
So look, if you're in a long-term rental market right now, you know what your cap rate is and your rate of return. What you may not know is that the short-term rental market today, we're seeing between 2x and 3x on that. And now it depends on how good you are at hosting, it depends on your location, there's a lot of different variables, but the one variable that I'm a huge proponent of, it completely changed my profitability, doesn't exist in the long-term rental market, and that's dynamic pricing. And for those of you who don't know what dynamic pricing is, it's basically the computer algorithms that you faced when you buy an airplane ticket and your seat is $100 less than the person next to you, or you check into a room and it was $229 one night and the next night it's $279. And in fact, you may start to see it. I just noticed I checked out of a regular hotel and it broke it down for me, right? It was like Saturday was $279, but Sunday was $229.
Wow.
So the Airbnb opportunity set and the short-term rental market opportunity set is so robust that there's now a whole ecosystem of entrepreneurs that have developed services, apps, conveniences all around it. And the most important one to really do this profitably is dynamic pricing, because you talked about the property manager that sort of spurred your idea to get this place listed at $600 a night.
Right.
And what I'm saying to you is, I virtually guarantee if dynamic pricing is, you use a great dynamic pricing service and this area is covered, you will see spikes during peak season. And it may even be periods that you were unaware were peak season, but it's just limited supply, where you'll get 2x, 3x, even 4x that. So just using standard property managers with short-term rentals is gonna be 2x more profitable versus long-term.
I see.
But you go to dynamic pricing and you might make a month's worth of rent in
a few
2
days.
nights.
Wow, yeah.
Like
See,
that, you can't beat that
at all.
You can't beat that.
And I think that that has a lot to do also with how you identify and locate your first or second or fifth or 10th property, right? I mean, proximity is going to play a big role. I would imagine that having various attractions, having things that have seasonality, that there's appeal at certain times is going to influence that dynamic pricing more than anything else, I would guess.
Look, if you're in an area that has an influx of people coming all at the same time, whether it's because it's summer or there's a music festival or conferences or whatever, that's money in the bank. And if you don't work with a dynamic pricing service, you're leaving money on the table. It's as simple as that.
So these are services or these are apps that you would use?
So it's a service that just connects to your Airbnb listing, and it automatically uploads without me doing anything every single night, new prices on all of my different properties. I can go manually in there and override and make changes up and down, but it's really sort of set it and forget it, check in occasionally. And it gives me a daily health score. So I have a health score between, say, 70 and 80. I'm cool, I don't touch anything. I dip down to 60 or 65, I lower my prices 25 bucks a night, get booked immediately.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's insane.
So what is the most popular, the most well-known dynamic pricing service or model that's out there?
There's several. I happen to be a big fan of Ian over at Beyond Pricing. The reason I'm a fan of Ian Beyond Pricing is because he developed all those algorithms for hotels and the airline industry. He worked at a consulting firm doing this. He left, he quit his job because he saw the opportunity set in short-term rentals and Airbnb specifically. And the reason I advocate Beyond Pricing is because he understands the math and the algorithms. The competitors tend to see just an opportunity and they come in and they do their absolute best. But if I'm gonna hire somebody and pay somebody to do it, I just want like the best, cleanest math that's gonna work the best.
How do they charge?
They take 1% of your bookings, but 1% of my bookings, when I'm making, call it 30% or 40% more than pricing it myself manually, I do that all day long.
Yeah. I mean, if you're pulling $100,000 in 1 year, right?
Right.
An $8,000, $8,300 per month average, who cares? You're giving up $1,000? You easily, you know, like you
in
said,
2
if you're
nights.
right, if you're making up that difference and you're adding an entire exponential growth to your revenues, that's going to be well worth the cost.
Absolutely. And the nice thing about it is it's a personal preference. So some people like to have more occupancy so they can set their rates lower. I personally advocate between 65 and 75 is my sweet spot. I like to leave it open for repairs and maintenance and my own use. I like to get the right type of guests that are going to take care of it. And generally speaking, higher price points commands higher priced individuals that take care of stuff. So I'm okay leaving occupancy on the table because I'm more profitable.
Mm-hmm.
If I priced it at the flat 500 a night, maybe I'd have 100% occupancy, 100% wear and tear, never be able to use it and be less profitable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll pay 1% to do what I want to do the way I want to do it.
That makes so much sense. And I think there's also something to be said about the reasons why he got involved in the short-term rental market in the beginning. Same exact reasons that I'm involved. When we first purchased this home, it was because we fell in love with the area. We liked the privacy of the space. We think it's made like a tank. There's very, very low maintenance on this property. It's built out of concrete. So there were just a lot of features that were appealing. But we bought it for ourselves. We wanted to use it. And so we started to only really consider this an asset, a lifestyle asset, once we discovered the potential revenues that could come in on a nightly basis. And as you'd mentioned, $500 or $600 was brought to our attention. And it just sort of felt like we would be stupid not to take that money if we were gone for 2 weeks of the month and working elsewhere. So for us, it really sort of became a rental. Right. Versus it wasn't intentionally going to be one to start with, but we saw the potential right away with it. And I have absolutely no idea how to price this. This is my very first time doing it. So to come in and hear about beyond pricing and learn about these resources from somebody like Richard has been hugely beneficial. What I'd like to find out from Richard for you guys is how do you really start going about getting involved in the short-term rental market to begin with? Again, my story is we wanted this for ourselves. We were able to afford it. We didn't feel like it would put us in any type of a pinch or a compromised position. So we were going to pursue it either way. And as we began to discover the potential, we start learning everything we can, and we're now obsessing over that newfound income stream and how we could make the most of it. But we don't want it rented all the time, right? We're not looking for 100%.
No.
But how do we get past the barriers of entry?
So I would say the first thing, one of the reasons that I like short-term rentals and one of the reasons I started the YouTube channel is it's the most easy to access form of entrepreneurialism anybody that's watching YouTube can afford, in the sense that you have a roof over your head. So you may live there and you may not want to have a room share, but you may not have a problem with sharing your space, and that's an option. So if you have a spare bedroom, that's monetizable, and all of a sudden you've reduced your rent and you've increased your cash flow. So we have plenty of people do that. That's how they get started. But then there's some less obvious things. What about the space, the loft space over the garage that's just sitting there with some boxes? Like, can you clear that out, put a bed in there, and make it kind of cute, and start to monetize that? Just get started. My favorite example, which sort of doesn't really seem obvious to people until I say it, is every single person travels for some reason. Maybe your sister's getting married, maybe you go away for work, maybe you're taking a week vacation. What if your week's vacation was paid by somebody else? So you're going to Hawaii, but while your home is vacant, Mr. Joe from wherever, California, is paying for you to go to Hawaii. Like, that's the power of this. Your lifestyle choice could be paid and funded by somebody else. And if you think of it that way, all of a sudden, I don't know how long you've waited to add this, second home, but what if you could have added it 10 years ago? What's the quality of life if you and your fiance were coming out here for 10 years and soaking in that springs like we just were, feeling as relaxed as we were? Well, we just shortened that investment horizon by 10 years. Instead of waiting till now, you can do it, instead of waiting for 10 years, you can do it now. So the quality of life is amazing. But more importantly, a lot of your followers are real estate investors. I've worked with people that have 300 units in multifamily and long-term rental that have just never really contemplated Airbnb because they thought it was a fad, or they didn't understand it, or they didn't realize that it was, as soon as I tell them 2 to 3x, they're like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that I can take a 10 family and convert it into a 30 family with the only CapEx being buying some couches and beds? And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to build anything or buy any more land. You can 3x your property. And that's just like mind blowing. So there's a lot of different ways you can get started, whether it's lifestyle, the garage, the vacation. But in today's world, home sharing, car sharing, all of these sharing things, your assets really should pay for themselves.
Yeah, this property is expected to bring in something in the vicinity of $7,000 per month above what we would normally be able to ask for it in a long-term rental situation. Plus, we get to use it for at least 10 days, if not 15 of the month. And all that required was going out and investing into something in the neighborhood of about $40,000 worth of furniture. So that return is so easy to justify. Not to mention, we obviously get to keep all of that. So yeah, there's wear and tear on it. We don't necessarily love having strangers using our beds and our hot tubs, but it's no different than going to a hotel or renting a short-term rental for yourself.
That's right.
I mean, what's the difference?
Which we've all done.
And it's funny because we were out eating yesterday in town, and my fiance Kellyanne was talking about, you know, the fact that we were putting some hot sauces in the house because we think it's going to be really convenient to have cooking supplies, right? We want ingredients so people don't have to buy, you know, canola oil when they want to make something in the kitchen. And she's saying, well, I don't know if people are really going to feel comfortable using hot sauce. And all of us sort of said, well, we do in a restaurant.
Right.
I mean, what's the difference between somebody else using the same jar of ketchup in a restaurant and using it at your Airbnb? So it's just a mind shift. And I think that's a mindset shift. You mentioned that before, and that's where I am with it as well. It's just a matter of really putting things into perspective, taking a closer look at it, and then just breaking it down to the numbers, guys. And that's what this is all about. And if you can take that extra cash flow, you can parlay it into more assets, you can parlay it into more income streams, and of course we can take it and we can accelerate eliminating the balances on this stuff, and then we just own an entire portfolio free and clear. So
now the key thing though is two things. One, getting started with whatever it is, right? Like don't wait until you can afford to buy $1 million place. Like just get started, because your hospitality skills, your hosting skills, the marketing skills, all that stuff.
Great point.
Practice now.
That's right. It's a skill. This is not natural, right? So we gotta work our way into feeling comfortable with it.
And unlike many other opportunities, it's all trust-based and review-based. So doing it properly from the beginning is critical, because you could shoot yourself in the foot. For instance, you go out and you charge the wrong amount, and somebody comes in and they're expecting, you know, some unbelievable 5-star experience, and they get a 3-star experience, and you start getting 3-star reviews. Your rates are going down. And so like what we're talking about doesn't actually materialize. But go to the channel, watch some videos, learn how to do it, practice while you're small, get your hosting skills up, get your hospitality game on, and you can just keep growing it like I have, and you know, tons of people on our channel just never envisioned that they'd be at the place that they are now. We have people with 100+ units.
And you're in the process of building 100+ himself, right? So, and he grew from, you know, nothing, just accidentally stumbling his way into this, to now looking at, you know, he's at a 7-figure point. Guys, this is not a fad, right? Fads don't go to 7 figures in a year.
And it's not only not a fad, it's the future, right? Like my kids, this is the way that they are going to live, rent, buy assets. There's a misprice currently right now. Places that are legally rentable on short-term rentals are still being priced like a traditional single-family home. That's wrong. Guys like me are going in there and buying certain properties for what I think is the incorrect pricing, and that'll go away over time.
I think one of the biggest things that I've taken away from this experience is being prepared for anything to shift unexpectedly as well, which means the regulations can be changed. Cities are obviously putting ordinances into place that can affect your game plan. So you've got to be very, very sure about your exit strategy. What is a worst case scenario? If you're buying a property that at least covers itself under a long-term rental situation, and then you can short-term rent it, even if the city comes in and says, hey, no more of that, which has happened in Denver. In fact, to my knowledge, Denver County will only allow you to rent under short-term if you are living in the property as a primary residence. So if you're taking a vacation, if you're traveling for work, you can rent your property out. Obviously, there are a lot of people that are bending that rule. I would not suggest that. You guys need to play within the rule book and just do it right. And if you do, there is enormous potential.
But just look at this. So playing within the rules in Denver. Your fiance and yourself come out here for 2 weeks in August.
Right.
Airbnb the 2 weeks in Denver.
That's right.
Legally.
Exactly.
I mean, like your assets are now working for you.
That's
so
right.
we all shoot for passive income. Nothing is really passive, but by having two, you can only be in one place. So something's always working for you.
That's right. And this one property alone, the net on this property is more than what most people earn on average in this country each and every year. So for us, you know, this is an entire income stream all by itself that could support our lives independently of anything else that we have going. You guys, any of you can do this. Make sure you check out Richard's channel. This is Richard Fertig, Short-Term Rental University. That's on YouTube. We'll link it in the description below. Make sure you're a subscriber of his channel as well. Get your free coaching session here too, guys. We'd love to be a second set of eyes on your decision making. We offer one courtesy complimentary session each and every person that's a viewer here on the channel. Unfortunately, those are scheduling way out in advance. If you'd like to skip the line, you can certainly pay and jump into one of our quick start vacancies and get ongoing coaching so that you can make great decisions perpetually versus just one coaching call. So we'll look forward to speaking with you guys. Check out our other videos. Richard's gonna be a regular here on this channel. We're gonna connect every chance the weather turns bad. We're gonna try and get together and, you know, we'll just make it an adventure every time. So we'll see you on the next video, guys. Until then, make it a great day today.
Thank you.